Right, all you up-all-nighters, you insomniac TV watchers, gamers, grapplers, and drivers, and especially you streetlight crusaders from all around the world. Welcome to the 601 in the evening edition of the newly named for a month yet critically acclaimed edition of the Midnite Special. I am your insomniatic host from East Coast, DJ Smokey, bringing the best from the North, Southeast, and West that the world of music, games, and wrestling has to offer. And seeing the fact that we are officially now within the sexcentennial era and officially bringing it in with a new show title and a couple of other new things lurking about, we might as well waste no time and explain to you guys what's going to happen on this very special, newly named yet critically acclaimed adventure of the late night variety edition of the Midnite Special. Because we kick things off with what happened during this week's edition of Monday Night Raw from Buffalo, New York, and I almost thought it was Buffalo somewhere else until I figured out where the arena was. And I gotta thank Juju for that if I see him in the future. Also, besides that, we go ahead and check out a very special Michael J. anime edition of the As Seen on TV, and I'm pretty sure he played the same character during the film as well, too. Yeah, there was a film based off the anime that was on Adult Swim. That's the only hint you guys are getting. Next up on the plate, we go ahead and check out some games that are from a said world of IndieCade variety, as well as some video game hits and clips, and to scratch that indie itch that you did get from the world of IndieCade as well, for another edition of the IndieCade Triple S Deluxe. And speaking of deluxe, and according to Call of the Maestro, Dan the Weatherman's still here with something very big since he got here a little bit early, and will reveal it as well as telling the weather for this week for another edition of the Weather Update. And come on, Dan the Weatherman Stu, what's in the box? What's in the box? Apparently, according to Dan the Weatherman Stu, dancing to the new music we have in the background, none of my business. You brought it up here, it is my business. And he said, don't worry about it. Oh, that makes me feel even better. Then finally, last but not least, and hopefully before the morning sun rises, we wrap up the show yet another edition of the Indie Report, which is me giving you guys two news stories followed up by local content information from local artists performing in a local area live near you. And I guess with that said, I might as well tell Carl and the Maestro to kick up the beats, crank out the tunes, and most importantly, let that new music ride on out as we head into some cool music of our own. Because it's time for us to bring some fun and delight on your street-lit, moonlit Tuesday night. Only here, right here, on the Midnite Special. So let's get this streetlight show started, folks. Right, all you streetlight crusaders, welcome back to the Midnite Special. Now, before we go any further into this show, for those wondering out here, yes, this still is the Tuesday Night Special. We decided to change the name over for 1 month, and if it works after a month, this will be the permanent name for the Tuesday Night Special, which technically, according to Call of the Maestro, since most of these shows take place somewhere close to or after midnight, would be pretty appropriate for the new name. I would have to agree. But like I said before, a month-long trial. We're going to see where this takes us. And if it takes us in a good direction, this will be the permanent name for the Tuesday Night Special in the near future. And with that explanation out of the way, folks, all right, all you Streetlight Crusaders, and I guess a couple you wrestling fans who are still up for the night, welcome back to the Tuesday Night Special. Darn it, I mean the Midnight Special. And now it's time for us to find out what happened during this week's edition of Monday Night Raw from Buffalo, New York. And Carl and the Maestro laughing over in the corner saying, yeah, old habits die hard, don't it? Yeah, we've been saying Tuesday Night Special for well over 600 episodes, so yeah, it sort of sticks, don't it? But besides me still trying to ride with the training wheels with the new name of the show, for 4 weeks that is, Monday Night Raw would kick off with our first match of the night, which would see none other than, and according to Carl and the Maestro, not a match but more or less a fight, that Stephanie Vaquer would won. Because she would be in the ring and would say that wrestling is her first language, she's here for the championship, and would immediately ask Liv Morgan to come out here and fight me and bring my title with you. For Liv Morgan to come out and, of course, in Judgment Day fashion, come out with everybody she could possibly think of along the lines of Roxanne and, of course, none other than Raycheal. And then for her to say, whatever Becky Lynch said before about me dishonoring this championship for the people that came before it, I don't care what they think. I don't care who else holds this title after me. The only person I care about who holds this championship now is me. And I'm on my way to becoming the longest reigning women's champion of all time, with only 3 title defenses. Right. But then would bring up the fact that she ended up beating none other than Stephanie Vaquer at WrestleMania this past year and sent her home for 3 months. And while she was at home, you had no choice but to look at me on your TV set doing everything but defending a championship, including sneak attacks on others, just like she did last week. But I digress, because then we would hear her say, more or less Stephanie Vaquer, that, you know what? I want you to fight me one-on-one and come to the ring. You're saying all that by yourself over there. Why don't you say it to my face? And then for Liv Morgan, of course, to bring her back up and say, oh, you're going to regret this. For Stephanie Vaquer to really hold her own in a 3-on-1 beatdown. But unfortunately, Raycheal and Roxanne would come out and just beat the daylights out of her with the help of Liv until Becky Lynch would come out. And Becky would immediately take out Liv Morgan by throwing her into the barricade, as well as Raycheal and Rox to go along with it, but then would end up bumping shoulders with Stephanie Vaquer for them to get in a little bit of a back and forth fight, but take their eyes off the prize of Liv Morgan, for Liv Morgan to immediately take advantage of the situation and then take out Stephanie Vaquer and Becky Lynch with ease. And would see Stephanie Vaquer getting hit with a Pop Rocks, as we would see none other than Liv Morgan celebrate with the gold. Now, backstage later on that night, we would hear from Stephanie Vaquer still looking for vengeance, but at the same time, before that Judas Priest record would get completed, we would see Becky Lynch saying, oh, well, that worked out well for you, didn't it? And then for Stephanie Vaquer to say, oh, stay out of my way, that championship is my business. For none other than Becky Lynch to immediately say afterwards, oh, but if you're going after that championship, it is my business. And oh yeah, by the way, good luck on that one-on-one match you got next week. It's gonna be fair. It's gonna be no one coming out to try to take you out. It's gonna be a fair match. Good luck. You know, sarcasm is a dying art, according to Carl and the Maestro. And then immediately after that, folks, we would see our first match of the night taking place, which would see none other than JD going one-on-one against Javon Evans. Now, the only reason this match is happening because JD and Dominic Mysterio would make their way out to the ring and would try to air their grievances about Dominic not being in the tournament for the championship of the world in Mexico City, only for Javon Evans, after getting the crap beaten out of him 2 weeks in a row by none other than Big Cass, to immediately say, nah, I don't care about what you guys are saying. Big Cass, get your big ass out here so we can do this. And then Dominic would say, or JD would immediately get on the microphone and pop up by saying, hey, you must be really stupid. Almost as stupid as these fans here in Buffalo if you're gonna try to call out Big Cass to get beat up again. But you know what? You're not gonna get beat up by him. You're gonna get beat up by us. Only for Javon to say, you know what? Why don't you just come to the ring right now and try to beat me right now? And during this match, yep, JD would definitely try to beat him. And despite Javon Evans tweaking his ankle during this match and JD taking full advantage of it, we would still see a red dot spin kick to the back of the head follow up after the red dot in the corner, then would lead to a springboard clothesline by Javon for near fall, only for JD to come back with a headbutt in a brain buster, which I haven't seen that on TV in ages, for a near fall. Then we would see JD trying to go off the top rope with his moonsault, only to get hit with an OG cutter for Javon Evans to win this match via pinfall. And in typical fashion, in Big Cass fashion as of late, would decide to beat the ever-living daylights out of Javon the second the match was over from behind, would hit him with some short-arm clotheslines, and then follow things up with an East River crossing for Javon on the ground to say, nah, that's all you got? And then for Big Cass to try to make his way back into the ring, but Javon to have something for him by repeatedly punching him in the face over and over again, doing a tope suicida on the outside of the ring, taking out Big Cass off his feet. But then, just when it looks like Javon was gonna get his revenge, Dominic Mysterio, sore about the loss, would toss Javon into the ring post and then would immediately hold up his hands like he did nothing for Big Cass to pick up the scraps, and Javon in this case, throw him into the barricade next to where the timekeeper's area was, then do the same thing against the barricade or on the other side where the fans were. Yikes! And then just for a big boot to take place inside of the ring, and for Big Cass to get a little bit of, I guess, satisfaction in this case, because it wasn't revenge. And the fact that he said it wasn't personal and still going after him, got a feeling it is personal. And the next match to take place on Monday Night Raw would see none other than Rey Fenix going one-on-one against El Fisco for the tournament to decide who's gonna fight against Roman Reigns in Mexico City. And during the said match, which would see Fisco's debut, would see Fisco pulling off a moonsault-like crossbody out of the corner for a near fall, for Rey Fenix to hit a handspring cutter during this match for a near fall, even seeing Fisco pulling off a nasty super kick counter, still for near fall, drop kick counter, a lot of counters in this match, still nothing. And then seeing Fisco pull off a military press jaw jacker directly into a discus lariat, only for a near fall. But ultimately, this match would come to an emphatic end when we would see Rey Fenix bust out the Mexican Muscle Buster to win this match after, or at least before that move was hit with a super kick to the face of Fisco off the top rope, for Rey Fenix to move onward and possibly fight his own brother by the semi or quarterfinals via pinfall. And the next match to take place on Monday Night Raw would see none other than Lyra Valkyria going one-on-one against Soruka. And Lyra Valkyria, before this match could start, and yes, calling the maestro, I didn't hear new music since she came out to the ring at Saturday night's main event, but yeah, really fits for what she's become now. And yeah, boy oh boy, did she change over the past couple of months. Because we would see Lyra Valkyria pull off a bird of prey out of the corner for a near fall, only only for a very unique pin counter out of the corner for near fall by Lyra Valkyria. But ultimately, this match would come to an end that again after a Nightwing counter that would lead into a DDT and the soul of the bird being snatched from her very body with a soul snatcher for none other than Soul Ruka to win this match via pinfall. Then immediately after the match was over, we would see Danhausen coming out with the Danhausen mobile to celebrate his birthday. And the best way to celebrate his birthday would be to give out human monies and shoot it out into the crowd with a money gun that could barely shoot the money over the barricade, so he just decided to throw it out with his hands. And then would have the fans sing him happy birthday and would say that to make his birthday better, go on WWEshop.com and buy my merchandise, or you will be cursed, or you are cursed. I'm getting his curse confused with the curse of the mummy from Aqua Team Hunger Force, all right? And Carla the Maestro holding up the picture of that mummy from that show saying curse. Yeah, real funny, real funny. But besides the curse of the mummy or curse of Danhausen, we would see Braun Breaker still upset after what happened last week with Oba calling himself the future. And Braun Breaker would make his way out to the ring after the Vision would brag about what they did to the Alpha Academy and would say that, oh, you think you're the future? How about you come out here right now, Oba, and we can find this out right now. For instead of Oba Femi, Paul Heyman to come out and would tell him that he's a lot of things, but most importantly, he's a wise man. And what you're doing right now is not wise at all for Braun to ask Paul Heyman again, do you think he's the future? For Oba to come out and immediately would say, you already know who is the future. Everybody here knows who the future is. Brock Lesnar knows who the future is, and it's me. And if you got a problem with it, how about you let me know? Only for Braun Breaker said, hey, I got a problem with it, and we can settle it right here, right now. For Paul Heyman to say, if you step forward right now, I will step away from you right now. And then for Paul Heyman to explain that this is a box office match and should not take place in Buffalo, New York, and it should be at Sunday Night Main Event. And at that event, we find out who is the true future of WWE. I mean, good point by Paul Heyman, but at the same time, the fans of Buffalo was shaking the roof off the joint to find out who was going to be the future there, but then you took the wind from out of their sails. Okay? But a match that I got a feeling probably put the wind back into it would see none other than Dragon Lee going one-on-one against Dr. Wagner III. Now, I know the whole name that he has and Dr. Wagner Jr., but we're just gonna go with the simplified name so we don't butcher it to all bejesus are back. And during the set contest where lucha action would go back and forth, we'd see Wagner III pull off a hard super kick to the face of Dragon Lee for a near fall. Even a nasty rolling clothesline that sent Lee crumbling to the ground, almost similar to a person in Tekken after getting hit with a laser beam blast. You know, when they fall to the ground and it looks like all the bones came out their body, that was the same thing for Dragon Lee, but he didn't even get a pin off of it. And he tried to go for a pin twice. Then we see Dragon Lee coming back during this match after a sunset flip counter kick to the head for a near fall. Even seeing a pop-up into the air, followed by a bicycle kick by Dr. Wagner III for a near fall. Dragon Lee coming back with a corner stomp for a near fall. Even a power bomb back inside of the ring and a frog splash by Wagner III for only a 2. But ultimately, this match would come to an end that again after Wagner III would try to be almost Seth Rollins-esque by trying to go for a superplex into the Wagner driver, but would get countered into a modified version of Operation Dragon as he would try to lift Dragon Lee up, for Dragon Lee to get back on the horse again and deliver yet another Operation Dragon to win this match and advance in the tournament via pinfall. A very impressive match, too. the next match to take place on Monday Night Raw would be our main event of the evening, which would see none other than Ray Phoenix going one-on-one against Chad Gable. And during this said match, which was absolutely awesome, we see Rey Mysterio turning back the clock during this said contest, but at the same time getting caught with a Northern Lights Fisherman suplex pin bridge for a near fall by Chad Gable. Very impressive, I may add. Even seeing a snap belly-to-belly suplex for a near fall by Chad. But Rey Mysterio coming back with a tornado DDT, still for a near fall. A cliffhanger DDT and a flying headbutt by Chad Gable. No dice. Springboard satellite DDT by Rey Mysterio. Nothing doing. An avalanche angle slam that I think I haven't seen in ring since Kurt Angle did it at the King of the Ring pay-per-view against Shane McMahon. Still a near fall. Only for Rey Mysterio to come back with two 619s and would try to go for the frog splash follow-up or the drop of the dime, only for Chad Gable to get the drop on him with an ankle lock that would get reversed into a pin by Rey Mysterio for a near fall. But Chad coming back and would win this match with the victory roll pin, aka a version of the Monday Night Special, to retain the Intercontinental Championship via pinfall. And two things I forgot to mention, folks. One, last week, Chad Gable gave Rey Mysterio a shot at the Intercontinental Championship as an apology after what happened with this whole crusade of him trying to beat out Lucha Libre and luchadors in general. And secondly, this match was for the Intercontinental Championship and potentially might be match of the year. But after the match was over, Rey Mysterio showing some respect to none other than Chad Gable by putting the belt around his waist and holding his hand up high, showing them who's the champ. But after all of that, folks, yeah, what would happen next would be very disrespectful. Because we would see immediately after that Roman Reigns making his way to the ring and Jay and Jimmy Uso making their way to the ring as well too, who would say, oh, bring me Solo. Now, beginning of Raw, after everything that happened with Liv Morgan and of course Stephanie Vaquer and Becky Lynch, we would see Jimmy and Jay Uso celebrating, dancing around like a bunch of goofballs all night, saying they were going to deliver Solo to Roman Reigns. But I got a feeling they're a little bit slow on the delivery process and would wait throughout the entire night to deliver them for them to dance their way out to the ring, celebrating in the face of Solo, laughing in his face, but at the same time, one man who wasn't laughing was Roman Reigns, and would bring up tribal combat and would say, hold on, I'm pretty sure I beat you in tribal combat. You should be acknowledging me right now, and at the same time, you should be on your knees right now. And would take off the sunglasses off his face and stomp it for Jacob to super kick him in the face, hit him with the tongue and death grip, and at the same time would tell him, oh, that's enough. Roman, that is. And then Roman would go on further to immediately see, saying, oh, it's not so funny now, huh? And you know what? Because of their actions tonight, Jimmy and Jay are now captains. They're made men. If you piss them off, you piss me off. Like their egos needed to be inflated any further from the Stockholm syndrome they're currently undergoing. But the person who would wake people up from that reality would see none other than L.A. Knight. Yeah, making his way to the ring to help out Solo, only for Jacob to try to get his hands on him, but for Roman Reigns to say, no, you don't handle him, I handle him. You stay over there in the corner. Only for a Superman punch to LA Knight and for Roman Reigns to get the Usos to lift him up on his feet and to tell Solo, you gotta make some tough decisions. And since you brought him into it, now you're gonna send him home. And then for Solo to say to LA Knight, I'm sorry, and then deliver the Samoan Spike instead of to LA Knight directly to the throat of Roman Reigns. And then Roman would go into his coat to pull out the warning shot for Jimmy and Jay, for Jimmy to get hit with a BFT and Jay to get the spike against the barricade, as we would see LA Knight in the face of Jacob, who would stand over in the corner due to the orders of Roman Reigns. And as Roman, speaking of Roman, would lock and load for a Superman punch, would get caught sleeping with a BFT and be sent back to factory settings, as LA Knight would take off his watch, throw it at the chest of Roman and say, "I got 10 more at home, yeah!" And then for him to leave the ring with Solo, and for none other than LA Knight to say, "I hope you know what you did," and then for Solo to say, "I owe you, man," and then for LA Knight to say, "No, I owe you." So them two owing each other, Roman Reigns still down on the ground, defeated and just embarrassed in front of the Buffalo fans, and for Raw to come to a close for this week. But what's gonna happen next week on Monday Night Raw when they go to the Great White North of Canada? Will we see Roman get his revenge against Jacob, against the orders that he followed a little bit too well? Will this partnership between Solo and Knight last, or is this just a double cross in the making? And what of the Judgment Day? Will they still interfere in other people's matches and not have a clean fight whatsoever, especially with a returning Stephanie McCare? And will Javon Evans finally get his hands in a fair one-on-one match against Big Cass without Big Cass attacking him from behind? We find out the answers to that and more next week on a very special Oh Canada edition of Monday Night Raw. But until then, I think it's time for us to go grab a glass of water, and when we return, we'll be back with more of that streetlight delight as the Midnite Special rolls on right after this. So don't fall asleep just yet, folks, and stay tuned. Right, all you insomniac TV channel surfers out there tonight, welcome back to the Midnite Special. And now it's time for us to go into another edition and a tribute to Adult Swim edition of the As Seen on TV. And the show we have up for tonight is none other than Black Dynamite. And Carl and the Maestro already laughing over in the corner making kung fu noises, and knock that off, man. Knock that off. And the meat and potatoes of this said show takes place approximately, I do believe, a couple of years prior to the actual film of Black Dynamite, and shows the adventures of Black Dynamite as he tries to save the neighborhood as much as he can. And that's the best meat and potatoes that we have for this show. And with those meat and potatoes out of the way, what did I love about this show? First off, all of the fighting scenes that were featured during this said show, and we'll get into that later. But another thing that I loved about this show was the fact that all the people, or just about all the people featured during this said show, was featured during the film as well too. And speaking of those said people, first up we have none other than Michael J. White, one of my favorite kung fu people of all time, who would play none other than Gamble, a part of the 2008 film of The Dark Knight, would even be featured in the film of Black Dynamite as well, Black Dynamite 2009, as well as playing Al Simmons, aka Spawn in the movie Spawn, was even featured in the movie Blood and Bone as Isaiah Bone, and I do believe was also featured in the film Half Past Dead, if I remember correctly. But outside of being a part of that, he would also be featured in The Island as Mark in 2023, and even featured in the film of The Commando as James Baker back in 2022, and was also featured a part of Assault on BA-33 as Chief Malone. And Carl and the Mike Show said you almost forgot to mention that he was a part of Black Dynamite for well over 20 episodes. Yeah, I was getting to that. Next up after that, you would have none other than Byron Mims, who would be none other than Bullhorn, a part of 20 episodes of Black Dynamite, but would also be a part of the said film of Black Dynamite 2009, as well as playing the Reverend Percy, a part of Outlaw Johnny Black in 2023, as well as playing a wounded soldier in 94's film of Forrest Gump. And according to Carl and the Maestro, would also play Rudy Ray Moore and Lionhorn, a part of the said series of Black Dynamite. Nice! Oh, and before I forget, was also featured in the film Undisputed as Saladin and Eddie Jones. And if I remember correctly, Michael J. White would be in the sequel of Undisputed as well, too. Only in a Russian prison, if I do remember correctly, and I'm pretty sure it featured an MMA fighter in that. But with Carl and the Maestro poking me with a stick, we move on to the next person, who would be none other than Kim Whitley, who would be featured a part of this said TV series as none other than, and drumroll please according to Carl and the Maestro, Honeybee for 20 episodes. But would also be featured a part of the movie Rango as Melanie, and also as a 911 operator during the film of Fistfight. Then would also be featured as Aletha and Aletha Turner, a part of the Upshaws back in 2022 for 6 episodes, even being featured during 3 episodes of Comics Unleashed back in 2026. And was also none other than Bessie, a part of the film of Happy Gilmore 2. Not bad. Next up after that, you would have the legendary Tommy Davidson, who, even though I know he would play none other than Cream Corn, a part of 20 episodes of this said show, and featured as Cream Corn in the film of Black Dynamite, he was a part of one of my favorite shows growing up as a kid of In Living Color. For 122 episodes, not only playing Sugar Ray Leonard and Howard Tibbs, a part of that said show as well too. But was also featured a part of the reunion for Martin back in 2022. Played himself in the show of Sherry for 2 episodes back in 2022. As well as playing Oscar, a part of the Proud Family for 36 episodes. And the part of the Louder and Prouder series as well too. Next up after that, you would also see him a part of the Realtor as Bruce Kevin in 2024, as well as being a part of the Mrs. Pat Show as Marcus for 3 episodes as well too. Next up after that, you would have none other than Carl Jones, who would play Frank DeJohn for 17 episodes, but would also be a part of none other than The Boondocks for 45 episodes as a producer, as well as being a producer a part of The Last OG for 10 episodes, and being a producer as well a part of Black Dynamite and Sugar and Toys. Yeah, he had his hand in a lot of things for TV and movies. Not bad. Next up after that, you would have Deborah Wilson. 2 weeks in a row we get a chance to mention her. Who would be featured a part of this said show as Little Orphan Penny for 17 episodes, but would also be featured as one of the funniest women I know, a part of Mad TV, but would also play Amanda Waller, a part of Batman The Enemy Within, Debbie in Over the Edge, Oprah, a part of Scary Movie and Mad TV, and a part of the Spishak series as well too, as well as being a part of a Wolfenstein game and playing Monster Sarah, a part of Cobweb, as well as being a part of the Sinister Seven for 7 episodes in Rick and Morty. And before I forget, also featured as Kendra and External, a part of 5 episodes of X-Men 97, which, yes, Carl and the Maestro will cover that series in the near future. Then finally, last but not least, since Carl and the Maestro said we can't be here all night, you would have none other than Eric Busa, who had played the fiendish Dr. Wu for 10 episodes, a part of this said series, and would also be featured a part of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for 29 episodes as Tiger Claw, Hun, and Vic. But would also be featured a part of the Ben 10 Omniverse as Striba, Diamond Head, and Dr. Cybos, or Psychobos, according to Carl and the Maestro, for 52 episodes. And would also be featured in Transformers Robots in Disguise in 2015 as Drift, Lieutenant Zyger, and Headlock. Now, I can't narrow down my favorite episode for this show because every single one of them was hilarious, especially with the fighting scenes that would see Mr. T getting involved and others. And you know what? We can narrow down one of our favorite episodes. Outside of Bullhorn being a part of the adult entertainment business and having his life on the line, another one of our favorite episodes would have to be the one featuring Michael Jackson. And the fact that it turned out he was an alien all along to make the Jackson 5. And maybe the other episode that featured Richard Nixon, and the one episode where that old lady got kicked out of a window going, "Shee!" Which is always funny no matter how many times I hear it. With this show originally kicking off, and according to Carl and the Maestro, we can mention one more person because they tapped us on the shoulder just to mention it, because none other than Arsenio Hall would be a part of this said show as Tasty Freeze, but would also be a part of the Arsenio Hall show, Coming to America, and even Harlem Nights, just to name a few. But seeing the fact that this show would originally kick off on Adult Swim as of July 15th of 2012, but would only come up a couple of months short from making it to 3 years, seeing the fact that this show would end as of January 10th of 2015, and with this show having 2 seasons and 20 episodes, and seeing the fact that we don't know how to review shows along the lines of TV Guide or any of those other famous TV reviewers that you know of out there, we say this. If you guys and gals out there want to go ahead and watch your man trying to defend others in the best ways he known how, in the most silliest ways known possible on TV, where you would not dare to interrupt this man's kung fu or suffer the consequences, then I recommend you go out there, pick up your TV channel remotes, and watch that show. Trust me, folks, a lot of very cool names that was featured during it that we couldn't get a chance to mention. And I guess with that said, I think it's time for us to head back into that music once again. And when we return, we'll be back with more of the Midnite Special right after this. So don't go watching reruns of Seinfeld just yet, folks, and stay tuned. And we're back with the Insomniatic show that's gonna name drop names from a show in the middle of the night, only known as the Midnite Special. And Carl and the Maestro said that you might as well mention a couple of the names from the Black Dynamite show that was a part of it that we didn't get a chance to mention, which would include Orlando Jones, Cedric Yarborough, Erykah Badu, a part of the show as well too, Clifton Powell, and even JB Smoove, just to name a couple. And still, my favorite character, a part of the entire show, would have to be Black Dynamite. Now, I would have said Bullhorn with all the cool rhymes, but Yeah, definitely Black Dynamite, my all-time favorite, a part of the show due to all of the different kung fu moves that he was able to pull off. But besides intense kung fu moments that took place during a show on Adult Swim, I think it's time for us to check out a couple of those video game hits with a couple of those video game clips and even scratch that indie itch you got for the world of Indiecade for another edition of the Indiecade Triple S Deluxe. And we kick things off with the art wall. And the art wall picture that we have up for this week comes from none other than the page of Raycheal and Enzit with their said game of Breached. And the artwork that they provided for this game would show a killer whale actually beached on a beach. Ugh. And not to mention on the upper part of the beach, not only showing, I do believe, some form of ice formation, as well as some form of capsule on the top as well too. And it would say on the top, we finally caught up to the seal. Since it's on the iceberg, we should try breaching. Breaching is when you initially jump onto land in order to hunt. When you're ready, hit space to do so. Huh. Now, this automatically reminds me a lot of Free Willy, with a little hint of that shark game that it requires you to do a whole bunch of shenanigans as a shark. Now, here's hoping in the near future that you can do that iconic jump from the movie of Free Willy when trying to get that said capsule. And according to Call of the Maestro, it all depends on the strength of your jump, and hopefully you can upgrade that. Fingers crossed. And with that said, folks, we now make our way on over towards the sound wall. And the sound we have up for this week comes from none other than, and apparently according to Call of the Maestro, Beauty Fun Soundtracks with their said sound of Isgard Sinclair, clones from the video game of Professor Lupo Ocean original soundtrack. And when I close my eyes while listening into this sound, it automatically reminds me of the show Carl and Maestro hosted called Space Rangers. Now, I can't say it like the host used to, but it would involve a whole bunch of kids who would get launched into space and would have to try to find their way home using this cool wristband watch thing to actually make their home with. And according to Call of the Maestro, it was a teleporter, and they didn't know how to use it to go back home, so they would jump from planet to planet to find a person who knows how to operate the said wristband teleporter. And how many episodes did this show have? 198! Apparently, according to Call of the Maestro, they made it to the final planet, and it was going to be a two-part finale, but unfortunately, they didn't have the budget. You ran out of a budget after 198 episodes? And Call of the Maestro said yes. And mostly because of the 3D imagery they used during the last episode and the whole anime fight they had during the end of it. Well, that makes a lot of sense. Animation is expensive. I've been told that a lot from a lot of indie cartoonists out there. But besides that expensive indie art moment, folks, we now make our way on over toward the Screenshot Saturday Showcase. And the Screenshot Saturday Showcase we have up for this week comes from none other than Eyebrower, Flo Delvaux, and Spaceman Walrus, nice name by the way, with their said game of Earthline Protocol. And the artwork that they provided, or a screenshot for this week, would show a beautiful town in the center being surrounded by 4 different biomes, with the upper one on the left looking like a wasteland, the one on the upper right-hand corner looking like a desert, the one on the bottom looking more like a worse desert environment, only for the one on the bottom left to look like a grass-like area. All with a river in the middle, actually getting supplies into the town in the center. Now, this game automatically reminds me of one city I would have in SimCity 3000, cause I got a feeling I would try to give resources over to a desert land for nothing to return, but at the same time, a lot of money to be had with that, according to Call of the Maestro. So that's the reason why my town was saved, because when I transferred over to that one, it gave me money back. Huh, never knew that, after all these years. But here's hoping the same thing could happen in this game as well if you happen to give resources to resourceless towns, or biomes in this case. And with that said, folks, we now make our way on over toward a couple of the games featured during this past year's Climate Jam. And the first 8 games we're going to mention out of the 50 would see none other than Hectopondev with their set game of Antar Tis Odyssey, The Battle for Zeta. Zhang Zhang with their set game of Afterimage. AOM 82 with their set game of Cool Grass. N3 Nunya with their set game of The Plant Desk. The Nile Paradig with their set game of Sonoran Gardener. Alex Hugh 258 with their set game of Gotcha Seeds. Nico Finirti with their set game of The Lonely Robot. And finally, last but not least for this week, none other than Bryn with their set game of Roachification. Wouldn't that be something based off of Franz Kafka? According to Call of the Maestro, no. Right then. And with that, folks, we now make our way to a couple of those indie itch games to scratch that indie itch you got for the night. And the first game we have up comes from Ethan Lunke with their set game of Evenipella, or Milpa? According to Call of the Maestro, we're right with the second one. Big David with their set game of Human Simulator. Jen Sart with their set game of Carnage Mania. Christopher PG with their set game of Snow Beyond the Door. Zeno X Games with their set game of Pocket Golf. Matt Siegel with their set game of Where's My Hug. Colt Line with their game of Zoms Royale Remake. And finally, last but not least, from Lazy Scarlet with their set game of Violetta Kill. And if you guys and gals out there want to go ahead and check out any other cool games that are still out there to help you scratch that indie itch you got for the night, then you can go ahead and head on over to the itch.io games of one man only known as itch.io.com or itch.io under the games section to check out all those cool games for yourselves. And trust me, you may be there for a while, because I got 1 million of them. 1.5 million of them. And if you also want to go ahead and check out any other cool games that were featured a part of the Art Wall, Sound Wall, Screenshot Saturday Showcase, or even have your games featured over there as well, or even a part of the Climate Jam, then you can go ahead and head on over to the IndieCade.tumblr page of one man only known as IndieCade.tumblr.com, or head on over toward their Facebook page known as IndieCade, or even their Twitter, Flickr, Instagram, YouTube, Discord, SoundCloud, Steam Machine, or website that are all named the same but is just as critically acclaimed, only known as, you guessed it folks, IndieCade. And according to Call of the Maestro, we almost forgot to mention their itch.io page where you can go ahead and check out this year's Climate Jam games, which is well over 50 of them. Gotta love it. And I guess with that public service announcement to wrap things up, we might as well head back into that music and continue to listen into these diamonds in the rough as we try to turn your Tuesday night into a Friday night. All to hear right here on the Midnite Special. So don't head downstairs for that pre or post midnight snack just yet, folks. And stay tuned. Right, all you Streetlight Crusaders, welcome back to the Midnite Special. And before we could possibly forget, folks, this year for the Walktoberfest that will be taking place as of September 26th of 2026 would see Billy trying to reach his goal of well over $2,500 to help intellectual and developmental disability individuals lead full and meaningful lives for this upcoming Walktoberfest. So for those who wants to participate or even donate for the cause, you can head on over to the website of arcmorris.org to learn more details for this upcoming event. And I can't wait to see who's gonna show up for the event, because we may be there. And then again, according to Call of the Maestro, the date for the event is just right around the corner for the Fall Festival on the Green for this year. Not bad. Not bad at all. And apparently, according to Call of the Maestro, it will take place that Saturday during the weekend of the said Fall Festival here in the local place where we are. But besides that little update and good luck to Billy for the event, making his way up the stairs right on time with the time we bought him, none other than Dan the Weatherman Stu here to deliver the 5-day weather forecast for this week. Dan the Weatherman Stu, you look ridiculous, and the microphone is all yours. Hey! Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls from around the world, it's your boy from Chicago, Illinois, Dan the Weatherman Stu here to be gonna find out the forecast for this week. And DJ Smokey, why'd you change the name of the show? Well, Dan the Weatherman Stu, we told you once we hit 601 episodes for the Tuesday night special that the next 4 episodes will all be featured for the Midnite Special as a test run before we decide whether or not we're going to keep the name or move back to the Tuesday night special. Didn't you get the memo? Dan the Weatherman Stu didn't get a memo. What's your email page? We didn't send the memo via email because we know it went in your spam folder. We sent it to you via text. Did you read your text? Apparently, according to Call of the Maestro, he had 65 texts and all of them from Vinny and Barney for the money he owes them. Right. Now I see the reason why you didn't see it. Well, outside of that bit of an embarrassment, could you do me a favor and go do the weather? We're burning moonlight here, man. Go do the weather. All right. So for tonight, that's right, Tuesday night, it's going to be a low of 61 degrees. Clear skies all around with winds going north and 0. And on Wednesday, another hot day for you, because it's going to be a high of 85, low of 66. Sunny skies all around with winds going west at 7 miles per hour. And on Thursday, here comes the rain, because it's going to be a high of 76, low of 58. Rainy skies all around at 75%, with winds going north at 5 miles per hour. And on Friday, start of the shower weekend, baby, because it's going to be a high of 81, low of 61. Partly cloudy skies with winds going northeast at 6 miles per hour. And on Saturday, another rainy day. Cause it's gonna be a high of 79, low of 63. Showers all around at 55%, with winds going east at 6 miles per hour. And on Sunday, not a sunny day at all. Cause it's gonna be a high of 81, low of 59. Morning showers at 40%, with winds going west, southwest at 7 miles per hour. And now you know, cause I've gotta go, because I am dead, what a man Stewart, I am through for the Weather Broadcast for this week. And now back to the man who's holding a new t-shirt in his hand, DJ Smokey for the Midnite Special. Yeah. I hope you know, Dan the Weatherman Stu, that this is not a new shirt. This is a shirt that you actually left here a couple of weeks ago, and I'm giving it back to you. Oh, nice, it's a gift! 2 in 1 week! Gotta love it! It's not a gift, it was an old disco bowling shirt that you had that you forgot to get rid of. So go get it out of here. Gotta sort things out around here. Don't worry about it, DJ Smokey, I got it covered. And if you ever want to join the bowling team, we are accepting members. Yeah. Last time I ended up going bowling with you, you got us banned from the bowling alley by bringing a disco bowling ball to the alley where all the disco pieces went flying everywhere after you tried to bowl it and screamed as loud as you could, "Strike!" Yeah. Exactly. And that's the reason why we can't go to the bowling alley. Because of you. But just take your shirt, and well, I guess we'll see you next time. That you will, DJ Smokey. Dan the Weatherman Stu out. Yeah. Hey, Dan the Weatherman Stu, you forgot this bowling shirt. Where do you think you're going? And he's gone. And sure enough, he's gone. I do this to myself sometimes. I really do. Oh well. Well, besides the headache I'm slowly but surely starting to get, I think it's time for us to get back into that music. And when we return, we'll be back with another edition of the Indie Report right after this. So don't go anywhere just yet, folks, and stay tuned. Right, all you Streetlight Crusaders, welcome back to the Tuesday Night Special. And apparently during the break, Carl and the Maestro told me they got a phone call from the bowling alley just 15 minutes ago saying that our ban has been revoked and they want us to be a part of a bowling tournament before the end of the summer. Huh. Now, I wonder if Dan the Weatherman Stu had anything to do with it, and is he gonna bring one of those weird gutter ball-like balls to the said event? Now, for those who don't know what gutter ball is, it was a game that I do believe Wild Interactive came out with, back before Flash games all got destroyed due to, Flash technology being gone. And yeah, it had a whole bunch of crazy bowling balls in it. Think we did a video game story for that game too. And according to Call of the Mike Show, yes, we did. Huh. How time flies. How time flies. But besides getting nostalgic over video game stories we've done probably 2 years ago or longer, I think it's time for us to go into one of my favorite parts of the show. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, none other than the Indie Report, which is me giving you guys 2 news stories, followed up by local content information from local artists, farming in a local area live near you. And in our first news story, and an exciting news for you fans out there of Take My Muffin, because it's been announced that as of August 21st, they're officially going to be a part of Amazon Prime. So they joined the likes of the Has-Been Hotel being a part of Amazon Prime. Now, here's hoping this leads to season 2 being a part of Amazon Prime as well, because I've been trying to get off that cliff for the longest, and for those who haven't watched season 1, make sure you head on over and check it out once it hits Amazon Prime, because trust me, this show is definitely worth it. And not to mention, hopefully this leads to them getting the second season off the ground outside of Patreon, because I think it's been almost over a year since season 1. And according to Colin the Maestro, you might be right. And a few guys and gals out there want to go ahead and check out further details of the new season, or the first season of Take My Muffin, to watch it on Prime Video, then you can go ahead and head on over to the said YouTube page of one man only known as Take My Muffin to check it out for yourselves. And in other news, and more or less news from the world of Chris Van Vliet, to keep up with the high-flying hijinks of the inside and outside of the ring, we would see Chris Van Vliet having none other than Javon Evans, aka Jay Malachi, a part of the show for Insight. Now, I'm, for one, overly excited about this one, seeing the fact that Javon Evans, before heading to the main roster of WWE or even being a part of NXT, would be the guy who was the champion, a part of DPW. Nice! And already off the bat, looking to become the youngest WWE champion to beat out Randy Orton's record. And I got a feeling the kid could do it. I mean, in his rookie year for the main roster of WWE, not only he was featured in the King of the Ring tournament and almost made it to finals, but also would be able to be a part of WrestleMania in his first year in a ladder match, which is unheard of. So I got a feeling he could do it. And a few guys and gals out there want to go ahead and check out the cool interview with your boy that's bouncy, then you can go ahead and head on over to the YouTube page of one man only known as Chris Van Vliet to check it out for yourselves. And with that said, folks, we now make our way on over towards the concert information. And thanks to Colin the Maestro pulling some strings, back on Reverb Nation with this one. And we kick things off with Wednesday, August 19th. And the first band that we have up is John Crocker with 2 Tons of Steel, who's both going to be performing at the Love and War in Texas, in Plano, Texas, at 2:30 p.m. Leaf Totsek is going to be performing at the Triple Door in Seattle, Washington, at 4 p.m. Ronnie Presley is going to be performing at the Bluegill Restaurant in Spanishport, Alabama, at 6 p.m. Clyde Mitchell Lehman is going to be performing at the Stoneforge Tavern and Public House in Raymond, Massachusetts, at 6 p.m. Trevor Finley is going to be performing at the Bootleggers Inn in Nashville, Tennessee, at 6 p.m. John Starr is going to be performing at the Bayside Restaurant in Newport Beach, California, at 6 p.m. Silverado with Covington Creek, nice band names, is both going to be performing at the Rev Room in Little Rock, Arkansas, at 6 p.m. Eric Schaefer and the Other Troublemakers is going to be performing at the Monterey Court Studio Galleries and Cafe in Tucson, Arizona at 6:30 p.m. Lex is going to be performing at the Sayreville Quarter in Pensacola, Florida at 7:30 p.m. And to finally wrap things up, wait, according to Call of Maestro, we got two bands before that happens. And first up is Johnny Hoy and the Bluefish, who's going to be performing at the Ritz in Oak Bluffs, Massachusetts at 8 p.m. Mitch Jacobs is going to be performing at the Rehab Bar in Houston, Texas at 8 p.m. And to finally wrap things up for Wednesday night, you can see Practically Einstein, nice band name, who's going to be performing at the Jimmy's Grill in Dewey Beach, Delaware at 9 p.m. And on Thursday, August 20th, you can see these following bands performing in a local area near you live. Todd Allen Hendreen is going to be performing at the Todd Hendreen's Nashville Nightlife Dinner Theater in Nashville, Tennessee at 5:30 p.m. The Lilliston Effect is going to be performing at the Tennessee Brew Works in Nashville, Tennessee at 6 p.m. Obsolete with TJ, Uberherdy the Kid, Levy Lee, and one other band yet to be announced is all going to be performing at the NCOM Cyber Hall in Norman, Oklahoma at 6 p.m. Jeff Ruby is going to be performing at the Opening Bell Coffee in Dallas, Texas at 6 p.m. The Hanshaws with David Hanshaw is both going to be performing at the Monterey Court Studio Galleries and Cafe in Tucson, Arizona at 6:30 p.m. Glass Mansions, nice band name, is going to be performing at the Dan Electro Guitar Bar in Houston, Texas at 7 p.m. Bill Mayer with Tommy Tigen is going to be performing at the Commodore Grill in Nashville, Tennessee at 7:30 p.m. Lena Prima is going to be performing at the Carousel Bar and Lounge at the Hotel Manalone in New Orleans, Louisiana at 6 p.m. According to Call of the Maestro, Arrow on their part, 9 p.m. Austin Mays is going to be performing at the Saxton Pub in Austin, Texas at 10 p.m. And to finally wrap things up for Thursday night, you can see We Collective, who's going to be performing at the League Bar and Restaurant in Minneapolis, Minnesota at 10 p.m. And on Tuesday for next week, which happens to be the 25th of August, last Tuesday of the month, by the way, you can see these following bands performing in a local area live near you. Jeff Gunther with the Coots is all going to be performing at the North Halden Free Public Library in North Halden, New Jersey at 1:30 p.m. Solnoff is going to be performing at the Crab Bar in Millsboro, Delaware at 4 p.m. Martin Rivas is going to be performing at the Crisco Brewers in Nantucket, Massachusetts at 4 p.m. Todd Allen Hendreen is going to be performing at the Nashville Nightlife Dinner Theater in Nashville, Tennessee at 5:30 p.m. Caveman Dave is going to be performing at the Barn at Hickory Station in Albany, Oregon at 6 p.m. Lyon and the Peoples, nice band name, is going to be performing at the City Winery in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania at 6:30 p.m. Marty Seymour is going to be performing at the Virginia Beach in Virginia Beach, Virginia at 7 p.m. And according to Call of the Maestro, at the Froggies in Virginia Beach. Well, it said Virginia Beach twice. They said we'll fix it later. Anyway, next band we have up is band Buchanan, who's going to be performing at the 1810 Ojimon in Houston, Texas at 7:30 p.m. Albert Castilla is going to be performing at the Almost Famous Wine Company in Livermore, California at 7:30 p.m. And to finally wrap things up for Tuesday for next week and all the bands we're going to mention for this week, you can see the Garage Boys, who's going to be performing at the Herrera's Carnival Court in Las Vegas, Nevada at 8 p.m. And if you guys and gals out there want to go ahead and check out the complete list of bands that we couldn't list during this very broadcast, and trust me folks, there were a lot of them, you can head on over to ReverbNation.com to check out the complete list of bands that we couldn't list during this very broadcast. And to correct myself, under the legacy.reverbnation.com page, where you can check out all those cool bands and even listen to a couple of their cool tunes. And trust me, they're worth the listen. Like we say at the end of all of these skits, go out there, support your local artists, and see these guys perform live. And trust me, they'll love you for it. And I guess with that said, I might as well tell Carl and the Maestro to hit back up the music. And when we return, we'll be back with the final segment for the Midnite Special for this week, right after this. So don't fall asleep just yet, folks, and stay tuned. Well, all you Streetlight Crusaders, seeing the fact that we're fresh out of music, the streetlights look like they're starting to flicker, and we're fresh out of Streetlight Crusading all for the night as well, we might as well bring the Tuesday night, or should I say, the Midnite Special for this week, to an emphatic close. But don't worry, if you miss any of that Streetlight delight that we were able to give you for this week, we got you covered. Because you can catch this show again one more time, all the time, on our SoundCloud, Facebook, Instagram, Tumblr, and Live 365 pages, still all named the same, only known as Music Village Radio under the hashtag Midnite Special 601. We were going to put the V in front of it, but it's going to cause us to say the Tuesday Night Special, so we just said Midnite Special instead, and Carl and Michael said that's the amount of times you said Tuesday Night Special during this show. I could have sworn I said it less than that. Well, besides all that bit of business, if you guys and gals out there want to figure out what other crazy and zany things we still got prepared for this summer of RPG, aka the month of adventure, like a show title that I got a feeling it's going to take us a while to get used to, then you can go ahead and check it out on our Discord, YouTube, Twitter, and Blue Sky page, all named the same, only known as the Double Agent 0012. And yes, Carl and the Maestro, we are on Blue Sky as well now as of an hour ago. Before we head out for the night, we would like to thank, as always, you the Streetlight Crusaders out there, for listening in to a very special name-changing late-night insomniatic edition of the Tuesday Night Special. I mean, of the Midnite Special. I swear to you, of the Midnite Special. And if you guys and gals out there like what you heard, go out there and spread the word. You know what? Like Black Dynamite after a nun told her what she gonna do to get me out of here. Yeah, you know, the PR department knows where I'm going with this one, and they're giving me the thumbs up, and at the same time wearing a headband, which is making me a little, paranoid and worried at the same time. So we're just gonna move on from that. And we would also like to thank you, the independent artists out there, for doing that musical goodness like you always do. And keep up the great work, guys. And here's hoping your music gets featured a part of this very show. And why? Because we believe in you guys. That's why. That's why. That, and plus we're gonna need some soothing tunes to help you get through the night. And speaking of people with soothing tunes to help you get through the night, we would like to thank our musical guests for this week, none other than the Lewis Express with their said songs of the Straight 7 Strut and the Flat Palm Avenue, as well as the Outer Worlds Jazz Ensemble with their said song of Earthy Elements and Molecules. Then you have none other than, and Carl the Maestro says, Raycheal Winners with their said song of Ghost in the Machine, Natali Lyon with their said song of When a Gold Moon Appears, Tigercub with their said song of Sadness Don't You Worry, Flamingosis with Summerbreeze, Muses with their said song of Summer of Love, Brian Didario with their said song of This Summer, the Fods with their song of What, and also none other than Carl and the Maestro with their said songs of not only currently playing right now in the background, closing us out, none other than Night Magic, that's wrapping up the show for the night. And of course, for the song you're listening to that was earlier in the evening, none other than the Suburban Symphony that kicked things off for tonight's edition of the Midnite Special. And like always, guys, keep those musical tunes coming, because you never know what show might be coming around the corner next that might need them. And finally, last but certainly not least, we would like to thank you, the independent gamers out there, for doing those sweet video game hits and clips that we had a chance to mention during this week's show. And like always, guys, keep them coming, because you never know what show might be coming around the corner next. Hint, 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 hint. And I guess with everybody thanked, you guys and gals out there know we go out. I'm DJ Smokey on behalf of Carl and the Maestro, and for you up-all-nighters, late-night drivers, insomniatic TV watchers, gamers, grapplers, and especially you streetlight crusaders from all around the world still getting used to a name change the same way we are saying, as he would kick a nun out of an establishment when he did that, too. But most importantly, when there's smoke, there's fire. And we'll see you guys next week for another late night adventure of the month-ending variety edition of the Midnite Special. But until then, and in a dedication to my friend Michael Moore, we wrap up tonight with none other than Burning of the Midnight Lamp. So until next week, go get some sleep, and good night, everybody.